Today, we're going to take a deep dive into bass fishing. Yes, there's an application that's going to help you catch more fish.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, folks? Welcome back to the Onecast. I am back in studio. That's why you're hearing my voice right now. It is good to be back with the boys here in studio. And we've got a pretty awesome episode in today. We've been teasing on Fishing Friday about having a new partnership here at the Onecast with the program. And we're announcing that today. We have a relationship now with the folks over at Deep Dive and the Deep Dive app. And we're going to bring on the founder here in a little bit, Braden Jenkins, to talk about it because it's an awesome application. It's on your phone. It's actually going to help you put more fish in the boat. And we're going to dive into the details of it here lately. But as always, we got a couple sponsors to plug. Go over to onecastfishing.com. Use the code the Onecast. Save a little bit of money. Fall fishing's coming, so you're going to want those snagless jigs to go flipping, those long neck hooks, those soft plastics. And when you're out there on the water, you also want to be protected, don't you?
That's right. So head on over to carolinawatersnc.com. Use the code the Onecast. You're going to save a little bit of pocket change at checkout. You guys can get yourself some awesome hats. Actually, I'm wearing a Heroes Harvest hat today because I need to promote them.
I've got one on. So
Ben's got a Carolina Waters hat on. I got one of their UPF 50 shirts on. We're constantly protecting our skin out there. We talk about how important it is to stay protected from the UV rays. So head on over there, get yourself some new gloves, neck buffs, UPF 50 shirts. They got stuff for adults and children as well. They got the new line coming out for this hunting season. So we all know, like bow hunting in September and October, super hot. And I don't really like to be out in the woods. But, hey, if you're that kind of guy or gal, get yourself some Carolina Waters apparel at carolinawatersnc.com. Also, what else should they do when they're online, Pete?
Yeah, you got to keep your eyes protected as well. So make sure you use the link in the description below to go to Hobie Eyewear. You can just go to hobieeyewear.com and order straight that way. But if you use the link below, it's going to save you 15% off your order. Save some money, get you the floating frames. We've been talking about them for a year plus now. Solid frames, really good glass, and good people over there. So make sure you check out Hobie Eyewear if you have not yet. Now my wife is calling me. So I apologize for that. I'm going to let these boys go ahead and take it. And since my dad just called me and now my wife's calling me, I'm going to answer the phone because there might be something wrong.
Yeah.
You got multiple family members, step out, Pete. You got to do what you got to do there. So we understand that.
Dude, we're super excited to have you back, Ben. We're super excited to have this partnership going on. But what's going on in the industry right now? We know some tournaments are just wrapping up. Some tournaments are just getting ready to kick off. But we talked about it before the show. What's pretty cool about this last Bassmaster Elite Series event?
This last one that they decided the AOI?
I mean, So we talked about it. If they're listening to this, then they should have listened to the episode before. But we gave our projections on who was going to win the tournament, who was going to win Angler of the Year, all that stuff. And who was your prediction? Because they got really, really close.
Yeah. So I think I went with Jacob Fouts, I think, to actually win the tournament. And because of that, I had to pick him for Angler of the Year, because if he would have won the tournament, he would have been Angler of the Year.
Yep.
And who'd you pick?
I think I picked Corey Johnston to win both AOI and the tournament. So I was one of two. Corey Johnston did win the St. Lawrence Smallmouth Blast Fest, right? 2 Century belts weighed in. And his brother, Chris Johnson, was able to take home Angler of the Year. And I'll tell you what, the only reason Jacob Fouts probably didn't win Angler of the Year is because of the weather. Right, that weather really screwed him up, and the only person that really had the cojones to go out in the big lake, right? I think that's Ontario. Ontario was Corey Johnston, and he clearly is a Canadian who knows how to surf just like Matty Wong, right? So he was out there getting after it. We're not going to talk about the drama because clearly it really wasn't that dramatic when you hear the angler stories, but it's really cool to see those guys, and everything was on the line at the end of the St. Lawrence tournament. People getting cut from the Bassmaster Elite. Let's not forget Rick Clunn and Frank Talley officially retiring from the Bassmaster Series. 2 great legends of the sport. Specifically, Rick Clunn is definitely a legend of the sport. But that tournament itself put somebody on the bubble to get into the Classic in 2025, and we talked about that before the show.
Yep, that is correct. So each year, it's always the top 40. Angler of the Year, the top 40 for Angler of the Year automatically qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. But folks can double qualify. There's certain events on the Elite Series. If you win it, you're automatically in the Classic. If you win an Open, then you're qualified. And so we actually, this last weekend at Leech Lake, we actually had a young man win his second Open of the year. So Easton Fothergill, make sure you get that right. He won his second Open. So now he's double qualified for the Classic. We dropped it down one spot. And who qualified?
Carl Jochimson, one of the most positive and influential people in the game. Somebody that definitely fits our narrative and our culture here. He is now qualified because Easton won, like you said, he won at Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. Then he wins up at his home lake, Leech Lake in Minnesota. So Carl was really banking on that. In fact, when he said what he said on Bassmaster Live or something on Mercer, he was like, there's still a shot, Mike. You know what I mean? Like, there's somebody that I think may win. And he was absolutely right. So Fothergill's going to go to the Elites, right? I'm already calling it right now. There's 2 events left, but he's so far ahead. I don't even know if he has to fish the next 2 events. He probably does. But nevertheless, the kid is a superstar. He is somebody to watch out for, coming from brain surgery in the college series. And now he's just literally coasting through the Open. So
I think he needs like 1 point in the last 2 events each to be able
I think
to
he'll be all right. Maybe they should give him an award for bringing like the smallest fish in just to make, but it's really cool. So, and then our boys up in Saginaw Bay, Michigan, by the time y'all are listening to this, you'll know who's hoisting the 4th NPFL Shield for the year. So all the NPFL anglers are Saginaw Bay, Michigan. I think it's their third or fourth time going there in a row. They absolutely love it up there. It's going to be a lot like the St. Lawrence River. Weather is going to be a factor. Largemouth and smallmouth both play. But Pete said before the show today, he goes, if you're not on the smallies, you're not going to win the tournament, right?
Yeah, I looked at the weather forecast up there, and they're going to be able to get on the lake, no problem. It's not the weather is not going to be a factor for the tournament days. So you're going to need to go out there and catch 20 pounds of smallmouth a day to compete. So if you're just a largemouth guy, you're just trying to get a check. If you want to try to win that, you're going to have to get out there and catch not just smallmouth, but you got to find those 3+ pounders.
That's right. So before we bring Braden on with Deep Dive, and we're super excited to bring him on, let's do what we did the last episode, and let's give our predictions real quick. So
do you guys want to make some BS pick for me?
Yeah. Brad Fuller is going to win the event. Last time, like Pete doesn't like or dislike anybody, right? Well, that's not true, but we gave him Scott Martin just because we give him a hard time all the time. But hey, Scott Martin's in the Classic next year, man. He won that Open on Okeechobee, his home lake too. So a lot of cool stories. So predictions for Saginaw Bay. Who's going to win the 4th stop of the year? You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Man, so I know which house is going to do amazing, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out here that, you're really putting it on me. I think you might see Corbishley do really well, right? Like Corbishley, Walters, Trent Palmer, Mac McBee, they all live in the same house. Corbishley's been on a pretty good roll this year. I mean, he's not all the way up there. So let me take that back. I think Corbishley's going to be in the top 10. Here's who I think is going to win it. I think Kyle Welcher's going to win it.
That's a good
right. Kyle Welcher is leading angler of the year for the NPFL right now, I believe. Kyle Welcher hasn't had a great year in the Bassmaster Elite Series, but for some odd reason, he's had a stellar year in the NPFL. I don't know why, but he's got a lot of momentum in the league right now. He hasn't won a tournament. He just came off the St. Lawrence River. He just got done fun fishing up there in New York, and so now he's rolling right into Michigan. I think you're going to see Kyle Welcher take that one.
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead, what you got?
I tell you who I'm rooting for and who I want to win, and that's Seth Ellis. I mean, got to support my boy down there, right? On Team Onecast. So I'm hoping the weather actually turns bad because, talking to Seth and all, I mean, he's a largemouth, shallow water guy, and that's what he's going to be focused on. And he's probably going to have some of the better largemouth bags.
Yeah.
But I think being realistic, if the weather's right, you're not chasing smallmouth, you're probably not going to win. So it's going to be like Patrick Waters or somebody. It's going to go out there and catch 90 pounds of smallmouth over 3 days and just smash it or something. But I think Seth's going to do really well. I think if he could stay on what he's on, I mean he'll be pretty high in the standings for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, my pick is pretty obvious. I mean, the dude's been absolutely destroying every league that he's fishing. Patrick Walters. It's hard not to pick Patrick Walters up there. Chasing smallmouth. He's had amazing tournaments up there. Last year, he lost to Trent by what? It was a couple ounces.
Yeah.
I mean, they were right there neck and neck. Corbershley was up there with him.
Yeah.
I think the only reason Corbershley fell was because one day he had one green fish in a bag, and that basically cost him the tournament. And that's just how important those brown fish are, as long as you go out and catch them, just for proof. So I think Patrick Walters is going to win another one and just keep riding the momentum, because we all have talked about how important that momentum is.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody that has been better the last 2 years, maybe 3, in professional fishing than P. Walt. So that's who I'm going with, Patrick Walters.
So let me tell a quick story before we bring Braden on. So last night, the boys, and this is obviously being recorded. So last night, Zach Burge, Cole Harris, Josh Hooks, and Seth Ellis, they all room together. It's no secret, right? They go on the road for the MPFL together. Seth sent a picture of the guys out to dinner last night. And so I did what I do best, a little intelligence gathering, identifying where they're at. And I made a phone call to the restaurant, and I was like, hey, can you go sing that dude in the white Carolina Waters shirt? Seth is with Carolina Waters, nc.com. Head over there, use the Onecast, right? But he's with Carolina Waters. I was like, he's got a Carolina Waters shirt on, the exact same one I'm wearing right now. Can you sing happy birthday to him? And they're like, we don't do that. I'm like, all right, cool. Can you slide him a napkin that says, you're going to win, Trey loves you, right? So the waitress walks over, she slides it to him, and he texts and he goes, my jaw just dropped. He goes, how did you know I was here? And Pete was like, he's just Googling stuff. But still, like, it was really funny, man. We are pulling for Seth Ellis. We're pulling for all of our Carolina boys, man. They are absolutely hammers in the industry, and they're showing it. So good luck to everybody. Hopefully Seth wins. I hope he does win. Mm-hmm. I think Kyle's going to take it. Patrick may take it. It's just experience, and it just is targeting a specific species that's very prominent up there that is just heavier. So I know that was a really long intro. Let's dive into some stuff.
Yeah, let's
deep dive.
Let's deep dive, right?
Let's bring him on, Pete.
Hey, let's go ahead and bring on Braden Jenkins here. Here is the founder of the Deep Dive app, which is in a second I'll let you introduce yourself, go to a little more detail, but it's an awesome application that brings in all sorts of weather data, historical tournament wins, and it's right there on your phone, and it can help you identify where to fish and maybe what to throw to help kind of because we all know it gets complicated out there in the water.
That's right.
And it helps you maybe narrow it down and jog your memory to try some different things out there. So, Braden, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here.
How's it going tonight?
It's going all right.
He's for everyone's watching. He's sitting there in the office with the big deep dive screen behind him. I don't really know what you do every day over there, helping us catch more fish, but it's definitely it's helped us out for sure.
Yeah. This is just to obscure the disaster that my kids have caused in my office up here behind me. So.
No, we asked earlier. It's a green screen. We had to ask to see if they have their own studio there. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about Deep Dive and what brought it about?
Sure. Deep Dive is a bass fishing specific app, and it's sort of it's got a bunch of it's not like a social app. Like I feel like a lot of fishing apps and popular fishing apps are like social apps. You share your catches. This is strictly a tool. We have some map overlays. We have a water clarity map, a water inflows map, this wind effects map, and a tournament patterns map to sort of help you break down a lake and find the best areas on the lake. We have things like the water level and current flow brought into the app also, so you don't have to go to some weird government website to figure out and hope that it loads. And we also have this sort of like a bait picker thing, so you can sort of put in your conditions for the body of water you're fishing, and it'll give you a list of baits and a list of covers and structures to throw those in. So
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Who said it? Did it actually the words come out of your mouth? Because they came out of mine.
We finished each other's
sandwiches. Anyway, yeah. So Trey and I actually, before we built a relationship with Deep Dive, we used the app this year before one of our tournaments. We didn't tell anybody about it, but everybody was chasing water clarity. We had some rain. Water levels were high, and we used the app to kind of break down some areas because map study's part of it. If you tournament fish, you probably have map studied. If you haven't, start doing it; it'll help you. And we heard about the app, and I don't remember where we heard about it. I think it was on a Facebook ad or something. Did you tell us about it? It might have been you.
Yeah, I've been using it for like 2.5 years.
Okay, it might have. Somebody told us. We'll give Ben the credit. Ben told us about it.
Better give me the credit.
And so we went, downloaded it, and we located a creek we wanted to fish in. And we ended up fishing the same 50-yard stretch of bank and finished third in that derby, and it sprung us to the Angler of the Year win. So super useful tool. I've been map studying for a long time, and to be able to now like look at wind blown points, I don't have to orient a map to the wind direction and identify those points. I pull up Deep Dive app, click that tool, and I know exactly where the wind's blown, exactly what points I want to go check out. So real time, we have used it before we had a relationship.
Yep.
And saw the utility of it and how much it'll really help you put more fish in the boat.
Yeah.
When did you guys actually originally launch the first version of the app?
Yeah, we launched the first version in January of 22.
So that's about right. So I forget. I remember you guys were working with some YouTubers and stuff, and at the time, and I was like, this is a very interesting concept because me personally, I'm data driven. I always want to be like, there's so many. We all know there's so many variables involved in fishing. I mean, there's seasonal patterns, weather conditions. I mean, some of the things we've talked about that you can see in the app: water clarity, barometric pressure, wind direction. I mean, all that stuff plays a role, as well as pressure and all. And there's just a lot of variables involved. And sometimes it gets very difficult to kind of narrow in your focus. And so when I saw the app originally, I downloaded it. And one of the first times I used it, I was out pre-fishing for a tournament. And it was late February, early March timeframe. So that late winter, early spring, and I thought the fish should be early in their migration. So I spent half the day fishing from like the mouth of a creek to, going back to a couple secondary points and some pockets. I just wasn't having any luck. So I pulled the app out. I adjusted the conditions that I was seeing on, this is Falls Lake, the water clarity and all. And it's like, well, why don't you try this maybe section with this bait?
Yeah.
Sure enough, I ended up putting a pattern together and then actually went in that tournament the next day. So that's when that was. So that's kind of my story originally behind it. Was like, and that was one of the first versions. And now there's so many more tools involved and a lot more data in there. It's just gotten better and better over time for sure.
Yeah.
So for the Braden, for the app itself, so are you the sole brainchild behind the concept?
Absolutely not. No. No. So I had some software developer buddies that I had worked with in the past at different companies, and they had been doing this 3D weather application or 3D radar, where you could actually look at instead of just looking at a top-down view of radar, you were actually looking at a 3D view of radar, and you could see, like, it was super cool. Like, I had never seen anything like that before. Awesome. But they were struggling because they were charging $1 a month for it, and they had like 1,000 users or something like that. Like, so they were making no money, and this was their only job. Like, they were just trying to make this work. I was like, guys, I just spent like $300 on a plate to mount my fish finder to the front of my boat. We need to like build something for the fishing industry, and it's sorely like it's missing technology. Everything feels like it's 8 to 10 years old that you're using technology wise. It's like, we got to do something here. And so I talked them into doing a fishing app with me, but they said, all right, this radar thing didn't work. You've got to find like a marketing channel before we like commit to like giving up on the radar thing and moving over to the fishing app. And so I've been watching Johnny Schultz fish the moment, and this was, I've been watching him for a long time, and he just seemed to be saying things that I wasn't hearing anybody else on YouTube that was giving like tips and stuff like that. He was like, he seemed to be giving way more juice than like anybody else was at the time. And so I reached out to Johnny. I was like, hey, we have this like idea for an app. Like, are you interested? And he pretty much responded immediately. And so we met with him and talked through some ideas. My original idea for the app was, since they were doing 3D weather or 3D radar, was to actually do like 3D lakes, so that you could like the same 3D views that they were showing, if we could show that of the lake and you could see everything. I thought that would be super cool. But I was the only one that thought that would be that cool. And so Johnny had like, you know, I think his brand at the time or something was like the fishing professor. So like he's like a teaching thing. And so we tried to, I was like, I fish and I suck and I want to get better. And I try to remember all these things. I'm watching YouTube videos all the time. I'm reading all this stuff and I just can't remember when I'm out there or like what I should be doing. Like something goes wrong. Like, how do I pivot, you know? And so we started trying to incorporate the way he was, you know, structuring his teaching videos and trying to bring that into an app form so that you could have all that information like in the tip of your finger. So that's sort of like where it started. There's 4 co-founders, me, the 2 software engineers, Jacob and Jeremiah, and then Johnny.
Okay.
From Fish the Moment.
So what is your just to get a little bit about yourself, like what is your background in fishing, and when did fishing get started for you?
As long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with fishing, and it's not always been bass fishing. It's really like any kind of fishing, but I'm also competitive. So like that leads you into sort of like bass fishing and competitive bass fishing. And I've never done anything really, you know, super competitive. I just fished in club tournaments and like, you know, charity tournaments and stuff like that. But I just think that's super fun, but it's also super frustrating when like your plan completely falls apart immediately and you have to pivot. Like a cold front came in the night before and it's not fishing the same as when I pre-fished it and all that.
Sure. Yeah. The reason I asked that is I think it's interesting. We get, you know, tournament anglers are a different culture in the fishing industry, right? It's such a small population. We get so wrapped up on giving the juice, as people say, away at the same time they're trying to promote, grow the industry. People get mad when you're giving waypoints away or when you're giving information up. But we want to promote and grow the industry. Kind of contradicts itself. So
yeah, there was a lot of videos and stuff out this week. Like it was basically the same thing we've been preaching. People say they want to grow the industry until it's time to go grow the industry.
That's right. Right.
And well, you know what's particularly fascinating about having you on here as an angler, because I think of the owners, the co-founders, and really the brainchild. You're the angler behind it, and we've had a lot of folks on this show across the industry that are not professional anglers, and it's deep dive and there's just another example. Like if you have a passion for fishing, there's a million different ways you can try to get in this industry. And if you're trying to bring a product that solves people's problems and help them catch more fish and make it easier, whether they're a tournament angler or they're just going out for 3 hours because that's all they have for the next 2 months because they're working all the time, to go out there and have a great day on the water. Yeah.
And, you know, this is where I see a lot of value in the Deep Dive app, is not only from the tournament aspect, but from all of fishing aspect. Like we get so many people that just want to take their kids out on the weekend, or they want to know where to start. Hey, can you give me some information? Where should I even look at? Right. And so for those of you watching and listening, Deep Dive is a great opportunity for you to just get out there and break down some water, right? It helps you do that from your couch when you're laying there. Understand the lake. They got great mapping images on there, satellite views, all that good stuff. And so for the recreational angler or the dad that can only get his son out once every couple months, it's a great opportunity to use this piece of technology and say, hey, we're going to go target these windblown points or whatever the case may be, or we're going to target certain water clarity. So from your perspective, it's really focused on bass fishing. Where do you guys want to take it? Like, what is Deep Dive's goal? Is it just bass fishing or is it beyond?
I think it's going to be the next thing will be, multi-species, North American fishing, in freshwater, not super interested in, I've never been saltwater fishing. I know it's a huge market and stuff. I don't know anything about it. It's not interesting to me personally.
The thing with that too is what you're trying to do. That market is pretty saturated with apps that show tides and things like that already. So I think it's smart because nobody's really done what you're doing yet in the freshwater game.
And we're about 20, 25 minutes in now. And if you're listening or watching, why don't you pause it right now and go download the app?
That's right.
Deep Dive in your app stores. You'll be able to download it. And while we talk about it, then you can follow along and you can see all the cool features with it. Right. So make sure you go do that as we talk about. But Pete's absolutely right, because some of the stuff that I don't know if we want to go in and talk about all the features that are in there and some of the stuff that can help anglers. But there's a water clarity feature, there's a current feature, the water level feature. You got your wind data, historical wind data, future wind data. You got, I saw there was feeding windows, on there. And unfortunately, I'm using my phone to help record, so I can't bring it up and go through. But there's a lot of features in there. And then it gets even more specific to specific tournament winning patterns and maybe locations where to go fish. And it's even got in there this is what a hump looks like on your contour map. This is what a ditch looks like. This is what this looks like. This is what it looks like from the bank. And there's even videos in there how you should fish it. It's pretty in depth. So I don't know which one we want to start with and talk about. And it might be interesting talking about how that data is coming into the app, and because the sources from and why it's so important, right, for fishing.
Sure. Yeah. So, the first thing we built that we launched with was our bait tool. And that was mostly Johnny sitting in Excel sheets for months on end, trying to come up with all, it is absolutely massive, complicated, super, super deep. And, everything else that we've looked at on the market that sort of at the time that we were looking at that would compete with it was totally paled in comparison to the amount of information that Johnny was putting in all these spreadsheets that we linked together and put in the app. And so that was the original deal. And we sort of got away from that and in favor of this tournament focused data where we actually had professional anglers watch old live streams of MLF Live and Bass Live and record where the anglers were catching fish, not the specific locations, but the areas. So we'd break the lakes into sections. We'd have the upper end, the mid lake, and the lower end, and then the first half a creek, back half a creek, main lake, main river, backwaters. So we broke these lakes into all these tiny sections. And then, so when they're recording where, a fish catch was happening, they're marking that section of the lake, the water clarity, the lake level, the weather conditions, the bait, color, structure, cover, they're just absolute ton of data. And so when we started recording all this tournament data, we started moving away from that spreadsheet sort of layout data, but then we got rid of that and people were angry. So we brought it back. And so that's what that baits tab is. And so our tournament data is all based off of observed professional elite series and BPT level events. And it's not, my friend Jim caught this fish over here by this bridge or what, it's observed professional catches. And since it's the camera boats, it's usually the leaders. And so these are going to be the bigger fish. And so we have a tournament database of 2,000 or 10,000 fish catches now. And so we have, you know, the lake that they're on, and the season and everything that they were caught in, and so we don't have these catches for every single lake in the US, obviously, because there's not been live streams of every single lake. So we've grouped a lot of lakes that have similar characteristics, you know, your highland reservoirs, lowland reservoirs, in different parts of the country, TVA lakes and Coosa River, stuff like that. And so we group all these together in the database. And so when you pick, like, say, you know, Jordan Lake or something like that, it's pulling lakes that are similar to that we have data for, and reprojecting all of those catches for all the sections all over the lake, matching your conditions currently, your weather conditions, your season filters. You can filter it down by if you only want to see shallow or offshore patterns. And so that's all that whole tournament database is. I mean, it's a misnomer that it's called the tournament data or tournament patterns or whatever in the app, because it's not for tournaments per se. It's the data is derived from professional tournaments.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that makes sense. Like when guys and gals are going out there to target, you know, the bass species, like what you're using in a tournament, is what we use recreationally anyway. So it really doesn't matter. But I think that's really cool that you guys were able to capture professional anglers going around to different lakes. Was this like an agreement, or was this like a little corporate espionage type?
Well, it's, you know, it's out there. It's fair use, right?
Yeah. Hey, so this is funny though, because
before we go too far, I just want to say, for those, if you're not in there looking, I was just in there poking around while he's talking about the bait selector tool and all that. And it's, what I really like about it is it doesn't just tell you to use this bait. It gives you colors like what you would expect. It has a retrieve video to show you how to retrieve that bait. It gives you rod, reel, line suggestions. The questions that we see everybody that's new to fishing, or even people that are just new to a technique, run to Facebook and say, hey, I want to try this. What should I use? And the typical answer is, well, figure it out yourself. Yeah. It's all there in the app and with the pro version. It's going to tell you what line to use, what type of rod, power, reel speed, casting, spinning, all of that. So it's a lot more than just, hey, go throw a green pumpkin in semi-clear water, green pumpkin chatterbait. It does. There's way more to it. It gives you a retrieve video, so you get an idea how to work that bait. It shows you the different examples of the type of structure to throw it on, the different types of banks, the channel swings, all of that, and it gives you examples of that. So it's very, very specific, not just, what's the word I'm looking for? Detailed. Yeah, detail oriented. It's not just go throw a green pumpkin wacky rig on a point and you'll catch them. It's what kind of points should you throw it on based on the time of year and everything. So it's super cool.
And it's great for young or novice anglers, but even for me, because we all get stuck in our ways.
100%.
We go out there with, okay, I've got my 10 rods on deck. Yeah, I've got other stuff, or I could tie other things on, but we get stuck in our ways, and maybe I'm just in the wrong spot, move on. But there's been multiple times I pulled it up. It's like in the back of my head, I was thinking, yeah, I should probably pull that out and try that. And it just gave me that extra nudge. Okay, maybe I should go ahead and pull it out. And so like, even with experience, it can help you self-correct, because we all get out there and it's just like, I know I should do this.
Yeah,
but
we're too lazy to do it. And from a selfish perspective, Braden, we get so many people that ask us about, where should I start? What bait should I throw? What line should I use? And we're very, very happy to answer the question. But here's the problem. When we give you the data, we gave you the data for today's fishing trip.
Yep.
Or yesterday's fishing trip, or last week's fishing trip, or what we're used to. But with the Deep Dive app, for those watching and listening, you can still ask Ben, Pete, and Trey, and Braden, and all of us, like, what we prefer. But we could totally be off base, because today was today, tomorrow is the next day, right? Like, it could be completely different. The conditions can change. They most likely will change. And so go on to the Deep Dive app and use that real-time data with those real-time conditions and target those areas that maybe Ben, Pete, and Trey, we gave you a little bit of wrong information, right? Like, we're not doing it out of spite. It's not the same day we're fishing, right? So for those, like, we always get it. Like, this is a really great tool for any angler, not just tournament anglers, any angler to get out there, whether or not you're brand new bank fisherman, right? We had our buddy Bassin through Rick on. He's a bank fisherman. We have kayak anglers. We have boat guys. We have river fishermen. We got fly fishermen coming on. We got all sorts of stuff. Get on the Deep Dive app and use that, right? So,
and before we move on to the next question, just to build off what Trey said, like if you're a bank angler, if you're just a weekend angler, whatever it is, if you're not doing map study and looking at stuff ahead of time, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And this helps take some of that.
That's right.
I don't want to say guesswork, but some of the legwork that you would normally have to put in, figuring out which points are going to be wind blown, figuring out water clarity. Well, we'll see when we get there, and then we'll adjust our plan. I'll tell you, it is very accurate, the water clarity, because like I said, we used it this year, and
yes,
we ran around the lake and checked. Well, it says this branch is muddy. Let's go see how good this is. And you run in there, and it was muddy. And it was like, all right, we now have trust in this app because they got it right.
Yep. So let's actually let's talk about the water clarity and how it's derived, because if you're in the app and you're looking at it, you can see when that data was derived, and it's not real time, and there can be delays, but that's how it's implemented. So I'll let Brady, you can explain how that data is derived and maybe some of the nuances or even warnings with that. So, because I know we talked about it, and I talked with like Jeremiah and Jacob about water clarity specifically.
Yeah. So the original idea for water clarity was let's put some buoys or something in the lakes that have a turbidity sensor on them and just get this live turbidity from the lakes, and that doesn't scale at all. Like
a little pricey, isn't it?
There's 10,000 lakes in Minnesota itself, right?
Yes, it's not.
Just
a
go
great
to Leech Lake. That's right.
So we tried to do it from satellite data, and we first started looking at the government has some Landsat satellites that they're a little older, and you get images. I don't know, like maybe every 4 to 7 days you get an image of a specific area, just the way they're orbiting, and if there's any clouds or haze or there was wildfires, like, if there's smoke, like you're screwed, like you don't get an image that day. And then you got to wait the next, 4 to 7 days for another image and hope that it's not cloudy. And so we found this provider that has a bunch of satellites, and they take images of almost the entire globe every single day. And so, the way those work is that they take the image, and then when they pass over a pole, they download the image, and then it's got a long way to travel, and so there's like some problems with transmission of some of those images every once in a while, and if there's clouds, it's still a problem, right? You're using satellites, but it's really the only way we could figure to get a more widespread implementation of water clarity. And what we do is we take little samples all over the lake, and we get little these sample images, and then we evaluate the water clarity in those sample images, and then we interpolate that across the whole lake. And the reason we do that is because when we were first developing this, I was using Grand Lake of the Cherokees as our test lake, and I was trying to download a little sample, had a bug in my code, downloaded the whole lake, and it was $250,000 to download the whole lake.
Yeah, nice.
And so they backed that out, and we didn't actually have to pay that. But it's so you understand the scale of how expensive these images are. Mm-hmm. That's why people have asked, why can't they see the daily satellite images? And it's because it's absurdly expensive. And so, yeah.
What did your face look like when they said, "Oh, it's only $250K"?
Well, I was quite panicked, but I messaged our account rep real quick. I was like, I just had a bug and it's really bad. Like, can you cancel this? And so,
we gonna be having to take out some second mortgages, friend.
And for everyone out there, getting almost real time satellite images every day, every couple of days. It's not cheap. It's not like going on Google Maps and
right.
They may be 2, 3, 4 years old, or even older, depending on where you're looking at on Google Earth or whatever program. So it's not cheap to get all this. And so I know when you download the app, they've got I think some limited features.
They got a trial period.
Yep. But the subscription period, after that, I mean, this is the reason why it's you got to pay a little bit, because it's not easy to get all this information, and it's not like you're any of us individually are going to go buy an individual satellite for a map. Like, how are we going to determine water clarity? Like, we got a tournament on a lake 6 hours away.
Yeah,
Let me call Elon real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, we need to get Elon on a bass boat, get him hooked, and then we'll have all the satellite data we need.
I mean, basically what Braden is saying is like, I need UAV operators for every section in North America, and then I'll just fly real-time drones, and then we'll be good. So that would be super pricey.
But I wanted to talk about this because, I've talked about the app and I've showed the things, and I always caution people with the water clarity. It's based upon that satellite imagery that is a few days old, minimum, but there's clouds involved and there's other stuff. So like what I like to tell people, even if you bring it up and the image is, I don't know, a week old or something, but I think there's a 30-day history. You can scroll back and forth on it.
Yeah.
So like you can look for, there was a big rain, around this period. So this is what the lake looks like then. So, there's going to be a big rain 3 days before I'm going fishing or before my tournament. This is kind of what the lake water clarity looks like when it's rained. So then you can kind of figure out where you want to fish and kind of maybe this place usually gets blown out. So maybe you want to focus on this area.
Yeah, and I mean the other features on the app is, what is it? The water discharge portion of it. What's the actual nomenclature?
So there, we have like the current flow.
The current
through the
flow.
lake. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, what I was going to say is for inexperienced anglers, like, you might have to burn some gas, right? But deep dive could potentially save you a lot of gas money when you start correlating where water discharges from the bank, where the wind blows into using the deep dive app, and understanding the weather, and then looking at the water clarity. You can start piecing together that puzzle after you gain some serious experience on lake, right? Like, I know where it's going to be muddy based on, the topography around the lake, right? If I got high points, right, ridges and stuff like that, where more water flows coming in, well, deep dive is going to show you that, but then you're going to start learning that, right? So when you start using that water clarity feature on deep dive, you can start putting those pieces together. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, thanks, deep dive. I saved like 30 gallons of gas today. I didn't have to run all the way up into the mud unless you want to fish the mud, right?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
it's going to tell you, you fish in the mud, you need to probably start throwing a Colorado blade spinnerbait or a black and blue, whatever, right? It's going to tell you those things. So not only are you helping people catch fish, but you want to be helping people save gas, which is a huge thing in this economy, my man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was actually one of the biggest selling points when we were developing this feature. Johnny was like talking about how much gas you're going to save by not having to drive all the way up to a spot, realize it's blown out, and then drive all the way back down.
Yeah,
absolutely. We all know, like for the tournament anglers, like a lot of guys are working together to break down sections of the lake. Hey, if you're one of those anglers that travels alone because you like to be in your own little space and you want to break down the body of water, and you're not using the deep dive app, you might want to give it a shot, because this is going to help you break down those bodies of water and not maybe burn, 60, 80, 100 gallons of fuel over a 2-day period.
Real world example, when Trey and I fished that tournament, we were talking about before we used the deep dive app, we were trying to find clear water, and we decided to make one of those stupid long runs, and I burned half a tank of gas, and it was BLOWED'd out.
Yeah.
Like 1 inch clarity. We did catch a couple fish.
Yeah.
By pure, I think we just happened to hit him in the head, but it was like, this isn't the play. And then we talked, I think you're absolutely right. We talked to Ben that night. He's like, y'all need to check this app out. We downloaded it, and it was like, well, if we would have had this, I would have saved $40 today because I smoked running up the lake.
I can spend money on a year-long subscription or a month-to-month subscription, or I can spend, $150 in gas trying to figure out where the relatively stained water is at. You know what I mean? So, but that's a really great feature, man. And it's a whole package deal, right? From the wind-blown points to the water clarity to where the best fishing sections on the lake may be, right? To where all the current flow is at. Like, it's a whole, so that's really what I like about the app itself, is it gives you and
there is a free version.
There is a free version. Let me throw this military term out here. It gives you a common operating picture.
A cop.
Right? Gives you a cop, right? You hear it from the guys in the talk themselves. It gives you a cop of what's going down. So for all my Army friends and military folks out there, like, use deep dive. It's going to build you a cop.
I wanted to.
Okay.
Well, I was going to dive deeper into the points section, the wind blowing points.
You're going to dive deeper. Or you're going to deep.
Well,
I wanna
let's
do both.
before we jump. I do want to talk about the wind blown stuff and a few of those other features. But Braden, before we get into some of the other ones, can you break down the difference in what you get based on like from the free subscription to the pro subscription?
Yeah.
So the folks that are listening can make a more educated decision versus just us telling them, hey, go buy the pro because then you get everything.
Yeah, sure. So the free version limits you to you can still see the current flow and lake level, but I think you can only see for the current day. We have that you don't get access to any of the maps, and then the baits tab you get access to the one top bait. You don't get access to the whole thing. You still get access to the full weather, I believe, and I think that's the difference. It's really a paid app. Like the people are using it for free. Like there's really not a whole lot in there, and it costs us a lot of money to run. So it's not like it was a one-time setup and we pay $100 for a server or something like that.
Right.
The three of us engineers are working on reduced salaries trying to make this thing work in startup mode right now. Like we could probably get twice as much money like just going on the market, and so we're trying to bring a thing that is it doesn't exist, and it's very hard to I don't know how much of this stuff would ever get developed in a near time frame without us actually spending the time, because a lot of maybe you have a guy that's a fishing guy and he's like a product guy, but finding someone who's a fisherman and an engineer, like a software engineer, is like very uncommon, I feel like.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so like building something like this, usually what happens is they have to hire some engineering team, and engineering is expensive. And so, usually you're hiring offshore engineering teams to get it cheap, and then you get kind of a cheap product back on the other side. And we have, 3 dedicated engineers on this thing making, we're working all the time. The amount of features we've rolled out over the last 2 years since we launched it is pretty crazy. And we have some like super cool stuff we're still working on, but it's not free, because if it's free, you're the product, and we don't like that approach. So and you also have to hit like a huge scale to release a free product like that.
No, I appreciate you breaking that down, because it really is. I mean, you got to pay for the time that everybody's time is valuable, and they're doing a lot of work for you ahead of time to save you that gas money. And it's not a super expensive app. I mean, at the end of the day, you can go and look at the pricing and make the decision for yourself. But for me, it's worth every penny.
You're 100% paying more for your weekly Copenhagen rolls than you are for the deep dive app, right?
Trey's got more than Zen sitting on the table right now.
Let's calm down.
And if
I'm
you're
a
just
sinner.
and look, if you just want someone to save time too, I mean, to have all those, the features in the app. I know some of them were the free version, but like, you want to see the current for like the last week and the fluctuations. Like, you want to see the old weather data. You want to see the old wind data. Like, sure, there's on not every lake. There's some lakes you can go to, and there's, like we talked about earlier, there's some like rickety old government website that you may have to like bring up some crazy PDF Excel that
you don't know how to read.
You know how to read that levels the flow and in the cubic feet and So I mean, we've all probably done that, and we're like, okay, what's the water level? What's the water temp on this lake? Like, and then some lakes just don't have that information. It depends on if it's a core lake, if it's the power plant who runs it. So it's nice to be able to have all that there. And like for me, as someone who wants to save time, I mean, it's worth it just to save the time to be able to lay on the couch and have all that information handy instead of trying to search it all. Yeah.
So Braden, the big, and I know you're in the know of, the bass fishing world, specifically the tournament fishing. There's a lot of going back and forth about technology, and really what they mean by that is nothing more than forward-facing sonar, right? But you got potential changes coming up for 2025 and some of the leagues and stuff like that. I think deep dive is in a really good place, especially if you see leagues limit or ban or do whatever they're going to do with forward-facing sonar, because, forward-facing sonar has really helped anglers out a lot, just find fish, right? Break down bodies of water very quickly. But for those leagues that may ban it or may limit it, or for anything like that from the tournament side, deep dive is a great way to have it on your tablet, have it on your Lowrance HDS Pro. You can bring it up on there. You can bring freaking ESPN up on those dang graphs now. It's unbelievable. But I think we overlook like technology that's very important. And deep dive also provides a very good, like, it's a safety feature, right? From my perspective, right? Because mapping products and things like that, in my opinion, are the best technology that's ever existed in the fishing world, on the water in general. They provide safety, where the hazards are at, right? All those things. We get so wrapped around sonar right now, but the reality is mapping and all these applications, they are some of the best technology in the game. So I see deep dive playing a very big role, hopefully now and in the future, in the competitive bass fishing world. And when
I'm willing to bet it already does.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm willing to bet there's a lot of folks that we watch on the weekend that are using it, and they just don't talk about it because we all know how tournament anglers are.
So that's what I wanted to bring up is, so you do have anglers promoting deep dive. And so who are they, and how did some of those relationships get started outside of you and Johnny?
I think it was most of those that are public right now are mostly from Johnny, and my understanding of Johnny's story is he was like an obsessed Bassmaster fan, and he's a little kid and was going to all of these Bassmaster events, and the pros like started noticing that he was coming to every event, and he got to be known, and he developed some friendships with a lot of these pros, and so I guess like his network is sort of where those initial guys came from, and I think we've had Ben Milliken do some videos for us and talk about the app, and Brandon Polinick did some this year, and Polinick, it was cool during the Toledo Bend event. He was texting us and he was like, this is crazy. I'm on a water clarity pattern right now. I've never fished a water clarity. He's like, I'm fishing in this band. When I get out of this band, I'm no longer catching fish. Like I have to be fishing in this band of water clarity and I'm catching fish. And so that was pretty cool. But on the MLF side, we had Matt Steffen has been helping us out, and Matt Steffen actually helped us like with a lot of not just like promoting it, but like he helped build some of the pieces and was like sort of a advisor on some of the pieces for it as well. Okay. So
and Nordby, I got to give him a shout out, Andrew Nordby, who won he won an invitational or a Toyota Series this year. I think he won an invitational. But the guy's an absolute hammer. Got the pleasure of meeting him at the ICAST a couple years ago, 2022. And I think he was at the Bassmaster Classic, I think last year in Knoxville, if I'm not mistaken. But those are little anecdotes that Braden's talking about right now. So Pete and I, we're low lifes. We just we fish here and stuff like that. I mean, we're anglers of the year, no big deal. Fishing against MPFL pros who are good buddies, and we ended up beating them out of 2 little aluminum boats. So I really appreciate that using the deep dive app. But you hear anecdotes. Hey, I'm gonna throw some shade when I can. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's all good, healthy competition. But then you hear anecdotes that Braden's talking about. Brandon Polinick, Bassmaster Angler of the Year, right? Yeah. Multiple Elite Series wins. Ben Milliken, YouTuber gone famous, right? Qualified for the Bassmaster Elite Series his first year fishing the Opens, right? Andrew
won
Nordby,
an Open his first year.
Won an Open, right? And Matt Steffen, the hover rig, man, he made that thing famous. You know what I mean? Fishes the Bass Pro Tour. So it's good because people are going to be like, well, what's the legitimacy behind that, right? Like he's providing those anecdotes right now.
Well, yeah. Right? And I can say for anybody that's listening that has listened to us for any amount of time, we don't partner with anybody. That's not something that we've used and that we trust in. because that's just not, we're just not
No,
out for hire.
we've
Turned down multiple companies that have reached out to us because it's not something we either don't align with their beliefs, or it's not a product that we have used
That's
and
right.
believe in. And this one, long before this relationship formed, Ben was using it, Trey and I used it. And so you take our word for it. If you've been listening for a while, it is worth it. If you haven't, you can see the legitimacy, like Trey was saying, with those professional absolute hammers that are using it. And I think we've turned a few people onto it this year as well. So
That's right.
And I think a lot of that's because, the extra step you guys have gone to try to provide that information to help anglers. And because I want to dive back into the wind direction feature, because it's, it comes up there on your map or whatever your body you have, and it tells you the direction the wind is going, and you can adjust it for time. But it's not just that.
Right.
Like if you look on the bank, there's a bunch of little dots. So I want to give the opportunity to explain what that's showing and kind of the science or data or physics.
Yep.
Behind it.
And before you say anything, I will say this is my favorite feature of the
Yes.
It's funny, this feature, like when we rolled it out at the end of the last year, and it was kind of, I thought it was dumb. I thought there's nobody who's going to care about this. And when we talk to people, it's the thing they care most about. But it's I didn't think it was dumb. I just didn't think that, I didn't understand how powerful it could be when you looked at it through time. So what it's actually doing is it's taking the wind across the water. It's calculating the distance that wind traveled over the water, the magnitude of the wind to sort of, calculate how big the waves and those effects are on the bank. And then it calculates, the angle that it's hitting the bank. And so it uses all that to sort of give you those colored dots along the bank to show you how big the effects of the wind and waves are on all those banks. And you can scroll through time. You can go up to, I think there's a 7-day forecast. So you can go up to 7 days in the future, and you can look up to 2 days in the past. And so you can see, like what has been happening. If you're going out in the morning, what points were getting hit all night by the wind or something. So you have a starting point in the morning. So
Yeah, and that's important for all of our listeners. If you're wondering where the bait fish were pushed into, or you're wondering where where it may be muddy, right? If you're in a grass lake, which we don't have a lot here in North Carolina, so unfortunate us, what is being filtered down your lake. And the brighter the dots, correct me if I'm wrong, the brighter the dots or the more clustered the dots, that's where the wind is making the most impact. The waves are making the most impact. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's like a brownish color where there's like a minimal impact. There could be no color where there's no wind impact. And then there's a yellow, which is sort of a medium impact, and a red, which is a high impact. Yeah.
So your bait fish, if you're in that pattern of the year where they're feeding up on shad, or, it's getting into that, like right now, the season is, potentially end of summer, moving into that fall transition. We talk about bass and bait moving into the creek arms, whether or not they're all the way in the back, midway, whatever. That wind-blown point app will help you identify where, because shad move with the current, they move with the wind and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Depending on what body of water you're on, it may be very applicable, like us with gizzard, shad, and threadfin, where all that bait's being pushed.
I'm going to the mouth of the creek where the wind.
Exactly.
And has been for the last 2 days.
Yep. And then it's going to tell you, okay, switch over. Let's talk about water clarity. Switch over. Let's talk about tournament bait patterns and all that stuff. And so that full picture is going to help you dial in where you really need to focus your efforts on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the last, map overlay we have is the water inflows, where we have all of the rivers, streams, creeks, everything that flows into the body of water is on there with the average annual inflow. It's not a real time thing, but it gives you the magnitudes of like how big each one of these streams or creeks are, and you can filter that down and see where the bigger creeks are, where the small. So it's useful, after it's rained, you can sort of see which areas are going to get muddied up first, and also which areas are going to clear up first after a couple of days. So
no, and that's another thing. Now you're talking about nutrients being pushed in from the bank, lizards and worms and baby birds, I hate to say it, right? And all sorts of stuff like that. But I was actually just looking at that before we started the show. on Sharon Harris Reservoir, which is considered my home lake, right? 15 minutes up the road. And there are some areas that I'm like, man, I've never really fished that before. So now I learned something based on that feature in the application. And I'm going to go out there after a hard rain. I'm going to go check it out. You know what I mean? We just had Hurricane Debbie come through, Debbie Downer. And,
Deborah.
The water's starting to recede in a lot of our lakes and stuff like that. We're going to get more rain. And, in the fall and in the wintertime, your water starts to clear up a lot. And, people think bass in the winter aren't shallow. Yes, they are, especially on nice warm days. So they may move up, right? Because they're lazy and they want that bait flowing right past their face. So that's a really cool feature of the Deep Dive app.
Yeah. Everything together is just such a comprehensive tool to help you be more successful. And like I'm looking right now, somebody asked me today if they should go to Harris or Jordan. And I told them Harris just because I knew they were pulling water at Jordan. But when you see the graph over the last week of the 5.5 foot drop, I wouldn't want to be at Jordan right now. Like, look at that bad boy. Skyrocketed down. Like, that's just super useful. And then to be able to water clarity. And Dre was talking there. I didn't really listen to what he was saying, but I was looking at all the inflows in Jordan. I was like, man, I didn't know there was one in that little pocket. And I'm going to drop some pins when I get him.
And I think what's super exciting about it, if anglers are super, some of us can be super analytical about our fishing. And so I don't do it. A lot of times I take GoPros and record, but a lot of people have notebooks and they still record everything.
I have a journal.
Yep.
Well, now you're I caught my fish in this location. You can mark it. And now you can go back and look at that data. You're like, oh, and over time, you who knows what you might figure out. If you're fishing, how you fish, different patterns, and you start seeing inflows and stuff, right? Some inflows are, as you filter it, have more water coming in others. So after a hard rain, do you want to be after one that's got a medium flow or a high flow, or do you want to go to one of the ones that is kind of more of a trickle?
Yeah,
because it's not blown out, but there's still nutrients. So I don't know the answers to that. Everybody water might be different, seasonally might be different, but there's a lot of information that anglers can start taking on their own and applying it however they want to.
Yeah,
right, and to be more, to ultimately, hopefully, just become more efficient with your time.
Logging your data is something I don't do, but we heard it from, the first time we had Mike Corbishley on, right? And he captures his data. He fishes the MPFL, and he also takes every single person's money on Falls Lake here. But it depends on what time of year. So he logs his data. I think he has an Excel breakdown of when he is most likely to win a Wednesday night or a Thursday night Wildcat tournament or a PBC or a CAT or a Fisherman, whatever. He wins all of them all the time. It's ridiculous. But he logs his own stuff. He captures his own data. So he does trend analysis on when he's most likely to cash a check, right? And so now with this feature on Deep Dive, you can do the same thing, right? You can log your own data, and you can track when you are most likely to win a tournament. So I know.
So you're going to have to log your own data separately.
Yeah, you'll log your own data separately.
But you have all this other information.
Exactly.
You can correlate.
You have information.
I will tell you right now, I'm not going to win a tournament on Wednesday night. Ain't going to happen because I suck right now. I'm going to catch 10, 11 pounds, right? But this Deep Dive app will help you guys certain patterns of the year where you're most likely to win your tournaments based on your strengths and stuff like that. So.
And I do want to throw a disclaimer in there that not every lake is going to have every feature. So
sure,
if your little small, town lake that you fish on might not have water clarity, might not have some of the other ones.
So even Sharon Harris, I don't think has the current flow.
I don't know
if I remember, or lake level, one of the two, and that's just because it's not really published. Now we know that Sharon Harris is pretty stable; it doesn't fluctuate that much.
Sure, yeah, it's not a flood control reservoir or anything like that, but it definitely has current going through it. But it might not show you that, but that's okay. I mean, it takes these guys a lot of money.
Yeah,
it takes these guys a lot of time,
and that stuff's not tracked. So Harris Lake level, there's no government site for the lake level.
So call me. You know what I'm saying?
Call Trey.
But it's going to give you other things. It's going to give you wind blown points. It's going to give you the discharge points. It's going to give you clarity, right? I pulled it up today and said, where's the best section of the lake to fish? It was spot on, 100% spot on.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Nailed it. I'm looking at it right now,
dude. I can go out there right now and catch 15 to 17 pounds, right?
When somebody texts me and asks me
Yep.
where they should fish on Harris, I'm just going to send them a screenshot.
Yeah.
The big blue area in there somewhere.
Don't send them the screenshot. Send them the link to the app so that they can.
Well, no.
download
See, you send the screenshot and you tell them to go buy, you get the app, and then they get the break.
Like, I need to know more.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Like we sort of alluded to it earlier, is that tournament fishermen. I have a suspicion that they're not talking about it because
they aren't.
It's their they think it's their competitive edge or whatever, just a little bit more of an edge.
Yeah, I promise you, that's the case.
Because when we talked to some pros at the classic, and a lot of them were like, not saying anything, wanting to dodge the question, didn't really want to talk about it, and it's yeah.
Well, and I think
that one coming.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no. When you're trying to promote an app and expand an app or expand a product or something, no one wants to talk about it. Like that's a problem.
We've seen it on some YouTube videos, and I'm not going to name the anglers' names. I can tell you offline who they were, but they pulled it up on their videos with large followings. And we're like, yep, I use this app, but there's no mention of what the app is. But we know what it is because we've been using it. But, they sort of say, hey, here's this thing. So hopefully people Google like water clarity fishing app and Deep Dive will come up and lead them to that. But I have a feeling that there's a significant population of high level tournament anglers that are using the app and not talking about it.
Hey, listen, we all know in the tournament side of the world how hard it is to police the no information rule.
Yeah.
Deep Dive does not violate the no information rule from my understanding.
Knowledge.
It's public knowledge, pay to play, just like you do your gambling tournaments that you fish in, and go out there and have a competitive edge. If you don't want to tell your competitors about it, fine, but tell your followers about it. Right.
And I think, the app doesn't tell you fish at this GPS coordinate.
Right.
Like it
not yet.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to get there.
We'll see. We'll see how much data, more and more data it could get that good. Who knows? But so it just gives you the general area. Like this is kind of the general area of the lake. This is the general structure you'd be looking at and cover. And then it's ultimately still up to you to go put the bait in front of the fish's mouth.
For sure.
And then, do everything right to get that fish either on land or on the boat.
So Braden, we rolled down, I think we covered all the features, right, of Deep Dive. We covered the different versions of it. You can get the basic version, you can get the pro version, right?
Get the pro.
Promise you, you're going to love it. But before we dive into, all the socials and any of the closing comments and stuff, what is some of the negative feedback? Have you received any negatives from pros or any areas of concerns from tournament anglers themselves on the app?
Not pros. We get negative emails or whatever periodically, but I don't know. I don't know. Generally, I don't think these people are
fishermen,
super technology literate, I think is the problem usually. But no negative things other than the water clarity map not updating is problematic sometimes, where for an entire month there's cloud cover over a lake, and it's just super frustrating, and we're equally frustrated by it. Like, we don't want this to happen to you, and usually people are like, I went out today and there was no clouds, and why don't I have a water clarity map? And it's because it's when the satellite was passing over you is the time. Like, if you're outside at 8 a.m, there's no clouds, and the satellite passes over at 2 p.m, like, it's not the same. It's basically
so for all my tournament anglers out there, if the satellite gets in a bad rotation, you're not gonna get your data. It's just like we get in a bad rotation in a tournament, you don't catch the fish. If the satellite's on that cloud rotation, and it's funny you mentioned that because I just looked. Jordan is 2 days, Sharon Harris is 2 days, Falls is like 6 days. So more than likely, as that satellite progressed and got to Falls Lake, there was that cloud cover and it couldn't update. But if you look at the other lakes around, it just hit them at the right time and it was able to send that information.
I looked at Falls Lake recently, and I think the weird thing that happened there is that the north end of Falls Lake just didn't the satellite didn't download the image from that, and that's the muddy section of the lake. And when you're interpolating, it looks like it's clear up there, and you can't do that. So that was a no-go for there.
Braden, I asked that question because whenever, for all you watching and listening, before you send the Onecast hate mail, before you send deep dive hate mail, let me just say this. Ain't nobody perfect. There was only one that was perfect, right? Ain't nobody perfect. No technology is perfect. It relies on you to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It helps you get some of the answers to the test, but it's not gonna cheat for you, right? And so before you send all that hate mail, just understand, like, Deep Dive is providing a really cool service, a really cool application that really puts you in a position to start and identify where you can catch the majority of your fish, right? And the same goes for the Onecast. Like, we'll respond to you. But you may not like the responses you get, because at the end of the day, like, ain't nobody perfect, right? So I asked that question, Braden, because, a lot of people, vendors, manufacturers, like, everybody receives hate mail. Onecast Fishing, I've been very surprised at some of the stuff that I've seen come across his emails that he shares with the group, and it's really interesting. But you guys are a small organization doing something to help anglers catch more fish, break down bodies of water. It's very commendable. And it's not cheating, and it's not any of those things that people are complaining about. So, I just wanted to ask that question and provide that feedback to the audience. So, what do you guys got right now? Ben, Pete?
I'm good. We covered all the high points and talked about, what we wanted to talk about, the amazing features. We've got to share our real life experiences.
Yep.
So, that was the biggest thing. Braden got to tell the story about where it came from, an angler that wanted to have more success and happened to have some buddies and a background in software engineering. Because I think we've all probably at one time or another had an idea. They're like, man, there should be an app for that. And
Exactly.
and there isn't, and we just don't know the people. And like he said, you see it. And I wanted to kind of roll back to something that you talked about. People talk about how valuable their time is. Remember that the folks that are creating this app, their time is valuable as well. They're doing all this legwork. So when you look at that paid thing, just remember you don't want to waste your time. They're not going to waste their time doing something for free. And you do see those free apps, and you always hear people complain how crappy the app is. It's slow. It doesn't work. It's always down. Every time I've used a Deep Dive app, it's crisp, it's quick. You can tell that it's quality. And I know that sounds a little weird to say about an app, but you can tell it's a quality app that's built by people who care. It's not just the cheapest software engineer they could find to do it for.
It's not the Temu version.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's people that care.
I mean, Temu, like, I've never ordered anything from there, but whatever. But, Braden, I was I can't pull it off the wall because apparently I'm not strong enough, but I was going to pull out that 2024 Angler of the Year plaque that we received. And I give you guys credit, man. Like, you guys really helped us, like, break down a lake that both Pete and I were very unfamiliar with, very limited experience, that honed us in on an area to fish. And then we figured out the pattern, and that was #1 tournament of the year, man. And so from us, thank you guys for developing that app, and thank you for this partnership. Now I want to give you an opportunity to, like, plug where everybody can find you and how. I mean, we talked about it on the app store and stuff like that, but walk them through that real quick. Where can they find you? How can they download it? And what features can they use, or what things can they pay for when they get on the app?
Sure. Our website is deepdiveapp.com. And we're available, like you said, on the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. We have social stuff, but it's not, it's mostly, partnerships that we've had with influencers, sort of cutting up videos on there. It's not like super, secret. Hey, this is the way you can use this feature to, like, we want to get to there, but it's just, we're underwater feature development right now. So
yeah. Influencers cost money too. We all know it, right? But we're going to make some short form videos for you guys too, and help you all out. Obviously, we got this partnership rolling. And then what are the couple different options that people can download and pay for?
Yeah, so the app is free to download. It has a 7-day free trial, and there's a monthly option for Pro and a yearly option for Pro. The yearly is like a way better deal. Like it's $80 a year or $20 a month currently. Those prices fluctuate every now and then. So that's the current pricing. Yeah,
$80 a year.
That's $6 a month,
80?
basically. $6.66, so $6.67.
I'll just tell you right now, the gas pump shuts me off at $100 because I got a 36-gallon tank in my truck.
I know plenty of people that pay $6 every morning for a cup of coffee from.
Hey, $6 a month just worth it, and having to go to 100 different websites trying to find which lake you're fishing and find the information you want.
So, it's basically the price of a crankbait or something, right? You how many crankbaits do you buy that you didn't need?
Or that you're like, I don't have a lure retriever, so I'm just going to snap this.
I don't have any overstock attack. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Pete doesn't have one single glide bait that couldn't buy 4 years worth of the app. I'm just saying that right now. So no, man, that's awesome. We appreciate you breaking down all the features and where the data comes from. The expectation management from the app itself, I think, is very important for all of our viewers. We got a lot of friends of the Onecast, and I'm sure they're going to be very interested in having this conversation with us. And, we're experienced enough to give them educated responses. But if we're not, we're going to reach right out to you, right? And we'll get some of the partners on that have promoted your product. We'll work through you guys to get some of the other guys on so that we can push their narrative out there and their experiences with it. So we really appreciate you breaking that down. Before I close this out, and Braden, hang on the line after we close the show, what questions you guys got for Braden?
I'm good. I just want to say thanks again for coming on. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Love the product. For those of you listening, just like Trey said, with expectation management, it does rely on technology, satellites. We all know you lose phone service some places, so satellites don't always have coverage if there's clouds or mountains or dang wildfire putting smoke in the air. So, like Trey was saying earlier, just to keep that in mind. It's nothing's perfect, but so far it's been really dang good. And if you're listening to this when it drops on Thursday, I'm going to try to figure out how I can get my iPhone to mirror for our Fishing Friday live tomorrow, so I can pull some of this up and kind of show you around a little bit. I know we can do it. I just don't know if I'm technologically smart enough to do it. So I'm going to mess with that tonight, and hopefully we can have that for you on Fishing Friday. I'll Google it. Yeah, it's worth a Google. So hopefully we can show you around live a little bit what some of the features look like. And if you see us out and about and you want to see it, just tug us on the arm and ask, and I'll be more than happy to show you at Walmart, or I won't be at Bass Pro because I'm not allowed to buy tackle for a while, so you won't see me there.
Unless you got some KVD splashes. He's really looking.
Do you have any Carolina Chrome KVD splashes?
No, man.
I was just going to say, definitely appreciate you hopping on here to explain what deep dive is. I believe in the application. I believe in the service, what you guys are doing. What I think is really important is that you have an angler involved with the product design and the engineering. Like, that's important. I mean, that to have the end users and part of the entire process is part of the reason why it's so good for all those anglers out there. So definitely appreciate it. I wish you could have made it down to ICAST. I know I sat with Jacob and Jeremiah for, I don't know, like 3 hours, and we got into the weeds, like re-nerded out, talking about bathymetric LiDAR and how can we use drones to get water clarity and how to scale it. So for the nerds out there, just Google it and see what that does, and see you can start having your mind blown. But yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. But definitely appreciate you coming on here and to talk about it all.
Braden, Ben, Pete, and I are clearly not on your level, but what we can do is fish. We appreciate Deep Dive contributing to our 2024 points championship. Man, it was really cool to see that in action. Hang on just a minute, man. Deep Dive is an awesome partner. We're honored to be partnering with you guys, and thank all of you who are watching and listening to us and help us build this podcast, because this truly is a culture of anglers helping anglers, one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.